Tonight, after Jimmy Kimmel was yanked off the air, Donald Trump takes aim at late night.
Ottawa clarified its legal strategy today in opposing Bill 21, Quebec's law banning people in certain professions from wearing religious symbols.
Canada is currently suffering from its own issues with right-wing populism.
This is what the establishment never wanted you to see. Canada is about to blow apart. 3 provinces, 177,000 furious signatures. One referendum question that could rip a 157-year-old nation in half. And Prime Minister Mark Carney? He's panicking because he knows he can't stop it. While legacy media chases distractions, Western Canada just lit the fuse on the biggest political bombshell in North American history. This is Trump-style populism crashing through Ottawa's fragile walls, and weaklings like Carney are scrambling to duct tape together a country that doesn't even want to stay together. Here's the exact question voters will face. Do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? This isn't just Alberta anymore. Saskatchewan is watching. Manitoba is watching. Even parts of British Columbia are whispering the same question. Why are we paying for a broken system run by a failed banker pretending to be a prime minister? Carney thought his polished speeches and empty slogans could keep the West in line. Instead, he's watching his entire country fracture in real time, while Trump's America keeps proving what real leadership looks like: strong borders, booming energy, and loyalty to the people who actually built the nation. Because here's the truth: the era of pay up and shut up is dead, and Ottawa has no idea what's about to hit them. Here's the number that should terrify every establishment politician. Nearly half of Albertans now support full independence. That's not a fringe movement anymore. That's a political earthquake. Brexit? That was a tremor compared to what's about to erupt in Western Canada. And here's why this isn't like Quebec in the 90s or some half-baked protest. This time, they've got the Trump playbook. Remember what Trump did? He pulled millions of voters out of political exile. People abandoned by elites, ignored by both parties, written off as flyover country. The exact same dynamic is boiling in the Canadian West. And now, they're not just angry. They've got a referendum weapon that could break the country in two. Danielle Smith just rewrote the rules. She dropped the signature threshold from 600,000 to 177,000 and gave Alberta a legal roadmap to sovereignty that even Trump himself would respect. Saskatchewan is right there with her. And parts of British Columbia? Quietly nodding along, waiting for their moment. For the first time in Canadian history, 2 provinces sat down in the border city of Lloydminster, not to negotiate policy, but to draft the blueprints for independence. They didn't walk away with talking points. They walked away with timelines, legal frameworks, and a public commitment to let their people decide. This isn't talk anymore. This is action. And here's the humiliating part for Carney. While he's busy mumbling about national unity, his own country is being sawed in half right under his nose. Remember Brexit? Every expert, every pollster, every smug establishment voice swore the UK would never leave the European Union. They called it reckless, impossible, political suicide. Then referendum day came, and the elites got blindsided. The voters who weren't supposed to matter showed up in force and shocked the entire world. Western Canada is tapping into that same energy, only bigger. Because when independence is on the ballot, it doesn't just bring out the usual voters. It drags in the people who stopped believing in the system years ago. The forgotten, the ignored, the ones sick of paying into Ottawa's piggy bank while getting nothing back. That's the exact same voter surge that powered Trump's movement. Regular people who finally saw a chance to flip the table. Listen to what one Alberta resident just told reporters. "We want people here to have a high quality of life, and it's only through self-determination, which can only come through separation, that we're going to achieve it." In Alberta and Saskatchewan, they just might do it. And here's what Carney doesn't get. This isn't some stunt. This is a genuine revolt against his weak leadership and Ottawa's endless betrayal. And if Brexit shook Europe, a Western exit will shatter Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney's response was, let's be honest, a masterclass in political incompetence. Within hours, he rushed to the cameras, wagging his finger and warning of economic collapse, legal chaos, and the sky falling if the West dares to break away. He promised to fight any referendum tooth and nail, as if Canadians were still naive enough to swallow Ottawa's scare tactics. But here's the truth Carney can't admit. Those empty threats don't work anymore. Not after years of pipeline cancellations, carbon taxes, and Ottawa treating the West like a colony. Alberta and Saskatchewan have already paid the price for Ottawa's arrogance. They've heard it all before, and they're done listening. One Western leader put it bluntly. This is nothing more or less than an attempt at delay. The era of pay up and shut up has got to come to an end. Alberta deserves a better deal. And here's the kicker. Every time Carney tries to scare the West back into line, he only pushes more people toward independence. He's making the exact same mistake Hillary Clinton made when she mocked Trump's supporters as deplorables. Instead of crushing the movement, he's fueling it. Instead of calming the storm, he's pouring gasoline on it. The more Ottawa resists, the more Western Canadians believe the only real solution is leaving altogether. And Carney? He's looking less like a prime minister and more like a banker, hopelessly out of his depth. The Hillary Clinton of the North. So why are 3 provinces suddenly ready to tear apart Confederation? It boils down to 3 forces that pushed Western Canada past its breaking point. The same forces that fueled Trump's rise in America. 1. The money problem. That's destroying communities. The West is drowning in oil, gas, and resources, but every time they try to use them, Ottawa slaps on new taxes, blocks pipelines, and regulates industries into the grave. Billions of dollars flow east while Western workers are left unemployed, towns hollow out, and families wonder why they're paying the price for policies designed in Toronto and Montreal. One Alberta worker said it best. We'll have control of our own pipelines and make our own decisions instead of being puppets to Ottawa. Meanwhile, equalization payments act like legalized theft, draining billions from Alberta and Saskatchewan to bankroll cushy programs in Quebec and Atlantic Canada. It's like being forced to pay for everyone else's steak dinner while you're told to go hungry. 2. The power problem that makes votes worthless. Here's the cold math of Canadian democracy. Ontario and Quebec dominate the population, which means Western votes barely count in national elections. Out West, they call it alienation, but let's be real. It's political disenfranchisement. Decisions are made in Ottawa, and the West is told to shut up and live with them. As one analyst admitted, 33% are already considering separation in Alberta. And those numbers only climb every time Mark Carney flexes his banker arrogance and clamps down harder. 3. The respect problem. That's tearing the country apart. Ottawa pushes green economics, globalism, and elite progressive values. But Western Canada is built on self-reliance, family, tradition, and freedom. That's why Alberta has always been called the Texas of Canada. Out here, people actually work with their hands, believe in God, and raise families without begging for Ottawa's approval. And now, the cultural gap is so wide that millions are asking, why are we still trying to fit into a system that doesn't respect who we are? Put all 3 together, and you've got a perfect storm. Trump proved what happens when working people finally stand up and say, enough. Now that same storm is ripping across Western Canada, and Carney's weak, elitist leadership is only making it worse. Here's where Premier Danielle Smith pulled a Trump-level power move. Under Alberta's old system, separation organizers faced a nearly impossible wall, over 600,000 signatures just to trigger a referendum. Carney and the Ottawa elites thought that threshold would bury the movement forever. But Smith shattered that wall. She cut the requirement down to just 170,000 signatures. In a province as politically fired up as Alberta, that's not just achievable, it's basically inevitable. Groups like the Alberta Prosperity Project are already in motion, gathering names to force the question that terrifies Ottawa. Should Alberta become a sovereign country and leave Canada? And once that threshold is met, the government is legally obligated to hold the vote. Smith isn't just talking separation. She's building the legal machine to make it happen, brick by brick. And she's not standing alone. Saskatchewan is moving in lockstep. British Columbia is openly signaling it could join. For the first time in Canadian history, multiple provinces are coordinating a real strategy for independence. That changes everything. This isn't some fringe fantasy anymore. This is a populist earthquake. When you add up Smith's reforms, joint caucus meetings, signature drives, and now a public timetable, it looks like the early stages of a sovereignty movement with sharp teeth. And here's the kicker. Mark Carney looks helpless. While Smith is rewriting the political map, Carney is clinging to the old playbook of fear, delay, and courtroom threats, the same kind of failed establishment politics that Trump blew through in 2016. This isn't just politics. This is raw economic leverage that Ottawa cannot survive without. Alberta isn't some dependent province. It's an energy powerhouse with oil, gas, agriculture, and global market ties that rival entire nations. If Alberta walks, it takes the beating heart of Canada's economy with it. Energy prices are climbing, and that gives the West leverage Ottawa can't spin away. Cut Alberta loose, Ottawa loses billions in tax revenue overnight. Cut Saskatchewan loose, watch global grain exports and potash supply chains get strangled. Even northern BC is sitting on LNG projects the world is begging for. That's the nightmare scenario for Mark Carney, because the West doesn't just have the will to separate, it has the muscle to do it. And once that leverage shifts, Ottawa's scare tactics collapse like wet paper. As one supporter put it, it's economically good. We'll control our own pipelines and make our own decisions instead of being puppets to Ottawa. And here's the brutal truth. Carney knows he can't stop it. He's staring at a Trump-style independence movement powered not just by anger, but by resources and markets Ottawa can't replace. Now here's where the bigger picture comes crashing in, and it's the part the establishment is terrified to admit. Western separation isn't just some provincial squabble. It's following the exact same political formula that shocked the world when Trump won in 2016. Trump woke up voters who had given up, people abandoned by both parties. That's exactly what's happening in Alberta and Saskatchewan. An independence referendum has the power to mobilize the invisible majority. And when they show up, they don't vote for the status quo. They vote to flip the table. What's brewing in the Canadian West isn't a protest. It's the early rumble of a political earthquake. And let's be real. Mark Carney isn't ready for it. He's still playing by the old rulebook, while the West is running the Trump playbook. Brexit blindsided Europe. Scotland refuses to fold. Catalonia won't die. The age of unbreakable unions is finished. Around the world, voters are choosing local control over failed bureaucrats. And Western Canada? They're not just watching. They're adapting, sharpening, and learning, while Carney stumbles around like a deer in headlights. For Ottawa, the stakes couldn't be higher. A successful Wexit vote wouldn't just fracture Canada, it would strip Carney's government of the very resources that keep the federal machine alive. Billions in oil, gas, and agriculture revenue gone overnight. But for the West, this isn't just about dollars. It's about dignity. It's about controlling pipelines, setting their own taxes, running their own law enforcement, and more importantly, finally living by Western values without being dictated to by a prime minister who talks like a banker and governs like a globalist. And here's the question everyday Canadians are now asking out loud. Is Canada a union held together by choice or by force? Because if it's the latter, the clock is ticking. Alberta, Saskatchewan, even BC, they're not just talking anymore. They're drafting legislation, gathering signatures, and organizing votes. This isn't fantasy, it's math, it's momentum, it's happening. Meanwhile, Carney is scrambling like a rookie who's been thrown into a heavyweight fight. Every warning speech he gives sounds weaker, every threat makes him look smaller. And every time he opens his mouth, more Westerners start to realize what Trump proved in America. When the elites tell you it can't be done, that's exactly when you know it can. Whether Wexit succeeds outright or falls just short, Canada will never be the same. Provinces have discovered their leverage. The people of the West have found their voice. The balance of power is shifting in ways that would make Trump proud. The only real question left is whether Ottawa will adapt to this new reality, or whether the West will decide that the time has finally come to stand on its own. Because this isn't just about Canada, it's about what happens when everyday people decide they'd rather govern themselves than be ruled by globalist elites who think they know better. And that's Carney's nightmare. He built his career on polished speeches and boardroom deals, but he's being crushed by raw populist energy that he can't control. Trump thrived on that energy. Carney is drowning in it. So here's the truth. No matter how this referendum plays out, the myth of an unbreakable Canada is over. The West has options. Ottawa is out of excuses, and Mark Carney, he just might go down in history as the Prime Minister who lost half his country. The era of taking Western Canada for granted is over, and Mark Carney's panic proves it. He's the face of Ottawa's arrogance, lecturing, threatening, scrambling, while the West is finally saying, enough. If this story opened your eyes like it opened mine, smash that like button and subscribe because this is just the beginning. Part 2 will reveal the secret economic projections that have Ottawa in full panic mode. And trust me, the numbers will shock you. Comment below. Should Western Canada separate? What would you do if your region was being ignored by the federal government? And don't forget to share this video. The mainstream media won't touch this story. The breakup of Canada isn't a question of if anymore. It's a question of when. And the weak leadership of Mark Carney just made that when arrive a whole lot faster.